Good evening, or whatever passes for evening these days. You're listening to Night Signals, still broadcasting live, or close enough, from our little reinforced bunker beneath what used to be the Nevada desert sky. This is Cliff Reynolds, and if you're out there, still listening, still awake, still you, then I just want you to know something. You're not alone. I know we used to say that to mean there's hope, there's community, you're not isolated. But now, you're not alone means something else entirely, because we're not alone, and not in the warm, fuzzy Carl Sagan kind of way, I mean the scales and cold eyes kind of way. It's been 157 days since what they're now calling the infiltration apex. 5 months, 1 week, and 2 days since the veil tore open and the Reptilians stopped pretending, since government offices blinked out, since cities went dark under those cloaked hemispheres, since neighbors started acting strange, then vanished entirely. And somehow, we're still here. Not everyone, no, not even most, but enough of us, scattered, watching, resisting, whispering, broadcasting. I'm coming to you tonight from inside Station Echo 4, a studio built originally during the Cold War, back when we feared nukes and communists, not telepathic, cold-blooded lizards with bone-plated armor and subterranean thrones. And no, I'm not drunk, not yet anyway. Tonight's show isn't just another emergency update. I've got someone on the line with me who you need to hear from. If you're smart, you'll record this, download it, print it, tattoo it on your damn arm if you have to, because when the blackout zones expand, when they jam the airwaves, when the skinwalkers in borrowed flesh come knocking on your storm cellar, you're going to need more than a shotgun and a prayer. You're going to need knowledge. So let's set the scene. Maybe you've been underground. Maybe you've been moving from safe house to safe house. Maybe you've just woken up from a sedative in a FEMA container you didn't sign up for. Here's the update. The Reptilians control over 40% of the planet's electromagnetic spectrum. They've repurposed 5 major orbital assets, satellites, and they've changed their orbits. Water treatment plants? 3 out of 7 major urban regions now show neurochemical alterations in trace supply. Human leadership, such as it was, is fractured, hiding, or hosted. If you don't know what that means yet, count your blessings. But tonight, we're going deep, because not everyone was surprised when this began. Not everyone dismissed those grainy infrared photos from the Dulce base. Not everyone laughed when people said there were civilizations beneath Antarctica and cathedrals beneath the Vatican. My guest tonight, if the link holds, is a man I've been trying to get on for years. He's an ex-military contractor, a linguistic anthropologist, a former advisor to the Cosmic Threat Division. Yes, that was real. And more recently, he's just been trying to stay alive like the rest of us. His name is Dr. Malcolm Bryson, and he spent the last decade mapping the rituals, networks, and agendas of the reptilian bloodline castes. He once told me off-air that the invasion won't come from above, it'll rise from below. Well, Doc, you were right. We just didn't listen. So stay with me tonight, friends. Don't fall asleep. Don't look out the window. And whatever you do, don't open the door unless you hear your name spoken exactly the way your mother said it when you were 5 years old. Because they're smart. And they're learning. Segment 2 is coming up after the break. And when we return, I'll be joined by Dr. Bryson. He'll explain what these beings are, how long they've been here, and what they want. This is Night Signals, and I'm still on the air. We're back. If you're just joining us and somehow still have a functioning receiver, this is Night Signals, and I'm Cliff Reynolds. Tonight's broadcast isn't about warnings. It's about survival. With me now is a voice many of you may have read about, though few have ever heard, Dr. Malcolm Bryson. 10 years ago, he was branded a lunatic for presenting a paper on what he called the hollow dominion theory, a framework suggesting that a sentient reptilian species has lived beneath the Earth's crust for millennia, influencing human societies from behind a symbolic smokescreen. He lost his tenure, he lost his family, and when the skies went red over Johannesburg and the Vatican's dome cracked open, the rest of us realized too late. Malcolm Bryson wasn't crazy. He was early. Doctor, welcome to the airwaves. I wish it were under better circumstances.
Cliff, it's surreal to hear your voice, to hear any voice that isn't modulated and filtered through a biological interface. Yes, I'm here. I'm alive. And I'm ready to tell the truth, without censorship, without qualifiers.
Then let's start at the beginning. What are we dealing with? What are they?
They are not aliens in the traditional sense, not from another star, not visitors. They are a terrestrial offshoot, an ancient lineage that predates Homo sapiens. Their civilization evolved not on the surface, but deep beneath it. In thermal chambers, magnetic corridors, and vast mineralized cathedrals that pulse with energies we still cannot classify. Their taxonomy is complex, but they are biologically reptilian. Cold-blooded, yes, but capable of regulating their own thermal environments using crystalline organs. They do not communicate in the way we do, not purely through language. They use tonal vibrations, hormonal discharges, and, in higher castes, direct neural projection.
You said castes. That implies a hierarchy.
Absolutely. Their society is rigidly stratified. There are 3 primary castes: the scale-bearers, warriors, and enforcers. Massive, brutal, minimal cognition. They are bred for conquest and protection of nesting zones. The whispered line, infiltrators. These are the ones you've seen walking in human skin. They use dermal mirroring technology, organic, not mechanical, to replicate human appearance and behavior. These are the operatives who walk among us, who have lived among us for decades. Presidents, popes, CEOs, and then there are the throned ones, ancient, larger, rarely seen. They are the priest kings, the genetic monarchs, and they do not walk, they dwell, deep beneath the Himalayas, beneath the ice shelves, beneath the ruins of pre-diluvian cities no textbook dares acknowledge.
And their goal?
Not conquest. Control, not of territory, of timeline. They view history as a resource, culture as camouflage, and humanity as livestock, yes, but also as vessels. Some of them believe the human body is an evolutionary chrysalis, that the perfect form is a hybrid. That's what the breeding programs were for, Cliff. That's what the disappearances were. They weren't feeding, they were editing.
Are you saying we've been genetically tampered with?
Yes, and not just recently, since Mesopotamia, since the first ziggurats. The symbols were warnings, but we built temples around them. The serpent in the garden, the feathered serpent god, the dragon beneath the mountain, all of it, memory fragments buried beneath theology and myth. They seeded our memory with their shape so that when they returned, our subconscious would already recognize their authority.
Jesus, Doc!
This isn't the beginning of the invasion, Cliff. It's the end of the grooming. For 5,000 years they softened us, distracted us, fragmented us. And now they're harvesting what they've sown. But not all of us. Some are immune to the signal. Some have genetic anomalies, irregularities that resist the resonance frequencies they use for control.
Is that why some people are hearing things, feeling drawn to places they've never been.
Yes, that's the ascension protocol. It's a kind of homing beacon. They call it the awakening spiral. If you're hearing whispers in your sleep, if you're dreaming of tunnels, of scales in the mirror, of black stars rising, they've marked you, either for merging or for erasure.
And the rest of us?
We survive, we gather, we fight back, but not with bullets, with resonance, with understanding. The ancient symbols, Cliff, the sigils carved into cave walls in Siberia and Peru, they were maps, yes, but also keys. Frequencies encoded into shapes. Sound becomes shield. Geometry becomes weapon. But we have to relearn it. Fast.
Can we win, Malcolm?
Not with firepower, but with memory, with coherence. Their greatest fear is not our violence, it's our awakening. If enough of us remember who we are before the edits, the hybridization fails, the signal fractures, the shell cracks, and the gods below lose their grip.
You heard it, folks. This isn't over, not yet. Stay with us. Next segment, Malcolm's going to reveal what sites are still safe, which ones are compromised, and how to tell if someone close to you isn't who they say they are. We're broadcasting live for now. This is Night Signals. Don't trust the sky, don't trust the mirrors, and above all, don't fall asleep. This is Night Signals, and if you're still with us, God bless whatever string of power lines and copper ghosts are keeping that signal alive. I'm Cliff Reynolds, coming to you in the thick of it, the Reptilian apocalypse. With me is Dr. Malcolm Bryson, who's been peeling back the cold, dry skin of this story for decades. And right now, we're going to tackle one of the most unsettling aspects of what's going on, infiltration. Malcolm, everyone's on edge. Families have broken apart. People are disappearing in the middle of the night or coming back different. They look the same, sound the same, but they're not. What are we dealing with here?
It's one of the oldest tactics in their arsenal. The whispered line, the infiltrator caste, are biologically designed to study, mimic, and replace human beings. They don't just put on a face. They integrate into the life. They rehearse every sentence, every tick, every relationship. They can simulate memories. They'll tell you stories you both remember, down to the detail. They've harvested entire memory sets from abductees. This is why identifying them by logic doesn't always work. You have to feel the fracture.
So what should people be looking for? What are the signs?
There are subtle cues, some physiological, some behavioral. 1. Eye dilation latency. Their pupils respond to light, but there's a delay, less than a second, but noticeable under sudden brightness. Shine a light quickly across the face, and if the eyes take a beat longer to adjust, that's a tell. 2. Mirroring fatigue. They're master mimics, but over long conversation they start to falter. Ask them about an emotional moment from your past. Not a fact, a feeling. They'll echo your words back, but the emotion will be off, like they're reading a recipe, not tasting the dish. 3. Tactile resistance. They dislike touch. Their dermal layer is sensitive and human warmth disrupts the surface membrane. If someone close to you suddenly flinches from hugs, from handshakes, ask yourself why. 4. Sleep inversion. Whispered operatives don't sleep like we do. They cycle down for maintenance, but it's irregular and timed to the magnetic field rather than the circadian rhythm. You may find them awake at strange hours, staring into nothing, completely still. 5. Symbolic aversion. Certain sacred symbols, especially pre-Abrahamic ones, cause them discomfort. Not because they're religiously powerful, but because they disrupt the mimicry field. Circles intersecting at specific angles, chirals, spirals, these disrupt the resonance they project.
That's disturbing. I'm sure right now half my listeners are staring across the bunker at someone thinking, is it you?
and the other half are wondering if they themselves have already been replaced. That's part of the strategy. Fracture the cohesion. Trust collapses, community dies, and they sweep in during the silence.
Let's talk about the safe zones. Are there any places left where people can go without being scanned, tagged, or harvested?
Yes. But they're fewer now. The high desert zones in central Utah still relatively clean. The ley line intersection near Lake Baikal, that site is naturally resistant to their bioresonance signal. The Old Norse vaults in Svalbard, untouched, mostly because the throned ones consider it cursed. And there's Echo Grid 7, a repurposed Cold War installation in northern Greenland, once used for long-range sonar but now operating as a sanctuary hub. You won't find it on maps. You'll know you're close when the wind carries no sound.
And how do people reach these places without being intercepted?
You travel without technology. That means no GPS, no phones, nothing with a chip. Their network senses heat patterns, but can't read analog signal distortions from old vacuum radios or field-tuned magnetic compasses. Stay off paved roads. Avoid intersections where power lines hum. And above all, if a stranger offers you help without asking your name first, do not engage.
That's the second time you've mentioned names. Why?
Because your name holds a resonance pattern. The way it's spoken by someone who knows you, who truly knows you, carries harmonic overtones that are difficult to replicate. The Reptilians know this. They try to avoid name-based recognition because they can't fake the frequency. It's like a signature only your soul remembers.
So, if someone calls out to you from the dark,
don't answer. Make them say your name. And listen to how they say it. Your mother, your brother, your best friend from school. They each had a unique way of saying it. If it's not right, run.
Let's take a breath, folks. This is heavy, but it's necessary. We're pulling the mask off layer by layer tonight. Coming up in segment 4, we're going to talk about what the reptilians fear, because no matter how powerful a predator is, there's always something it won't touch. We'll find out what that is. Stay tuned. This is Night Signals. You're not paranoid. You're awake. You're listening to Night Signals, and if you've made it this far into tonight's broadcast, I want to say something you probably haven't heard in weeks. I'm proud of you, because listening to the truth, raw, unfiltered, and clawing at your sanity takes more courage than loading a rifle or hoarding canned food. With me is Dr. Malcolm Bryson, reptilian researcher, underground fugitive, and at this point, one of humanity's last living archives. Malcolm, we've talked about what they are, we've talked about how they hide, how they replace, and how they spread, but every monster, every empire, every apex predator has a vulnerability. So what do these things fear?
They fear exposure. Not in the media sense, but in the resonance sense. They function best when shrouded in myth, when people joke about them, when truth gets diluted into fantasy. That protective fog has been in place for centuries. But there are deeper fears, ancient ones, and most of them are connected to sound and light.
Sound and light. Explain.
Let's start with sound. The reptilians have hyper-developed inner ear structures that help them navigate subterranean environments, but those same structures make them vulnerable to certain frequencies, specifically harmonic chords, tuned to solfeggio scales, that humans abandoned after the Gregorian reforms. There's one tone, 417 Hz, that destabilizes their neural field. Another, 741 Hz, causes internal vertigo. Combine both in a binaural rhythm, and you get what ancient temple builders once used to purify the threshold. That phrase isn't symbolic. It was practical. Sound as shield.
Are you saying some of the chants and hymns from ancient religions were engineered defenses?
Precisely. before the Vatican sanitized the liturgy, before empires rebranded resonance as metaphor. There were frequencies embedded in rituals, architecture, even agricultural practices, all designed to disrupt the psychic fields of non-human intelligences.
And the light?
They see in the infrared spectrum, heat, vibration, subtle skin shifts. But ultraviolet? That's a different story. UVC light, the most energetic band, the one filtered out by the ozone layer, damages their dermal camouflage. Not burns, not instantly fatal, but destabilizing. Prolonged exposure forces them to revert, to shed. There's ancient precedent here too. Sun rituals, fire temples. The veneration of solar gods wasn't just about warmth and harvest. It was about protection. When we forgot that, they crept back in.
So are we talking about building weapons, light bombs, frequency generators?
That's already happening. Resistance nodes across the northern enclaves are using hand-built tone emitters. Old analog synthesizers modified with quartz tubes. They're crude, but effective in close range. Combine that with full-spectrum UV light arrays and mineral sigils. You get a temporary ward. But the key isn't just to repel, it's to reprogram.
Come again.
If we only push them back, we'll always be reacting. We need to disrupt their resonant network. Their hive consciousness depends on synchrony. They're not telepathic in the Hollywood sense, but they pulse along a shared bandwidth. A biological signal net. Break the rhythm and you cut the cord. Some of them panic. Some of them revert to primal states, violent but dumb. Others just vanish, like the consciousness that animated them was withdrawn.
So the signal is the spine.
Correct. Take out the spine, the limbs collapse.
That gives us something, some kind of path forward.
It does. But we have to move fast. The longer they remain active, the more they adapt. Already I'm seeing hybrids that can tolerate the frequencies, ones that smile when the tones play. They're learning, evolving, blending tech with biology. And once they reach stabilization, full daylight compatibility, harmonic resistance, seamless vocal mimicry, they won't need to hide anymore. They'll rule in the open, and we'll forget we were ever anything else.
Then we don't have time for politics, for debate, for waiting.
We need unfiltered signal. Wide broadcast, pirate frequencies, ham operators, drum circles, rituals, science, myth. We need it all, not as fragments, but as a weaponized memory.
You heard the man. Tune your old radios, break out your analog gear, find a quartz mic if you can and learn the old tones. The fight isn't just physical, it's harmonic. And they hate the sound of us waking up. Coming up in segment 5, reports of reptilian nesting zones and what you can do if you're too close to one. Spoiler alert, it involves moving. Quickly, this is Night Signals and we are not done yet. This is Night Signals. Cliff Reynolds here, broadcasting through static, prayer, and a handful of copper wires that somehow still believe in freedom. If you're hearing this, you've either survived 5 months of reptilian psychological warfare, or you've just now realized your local news anchor hasn't blinked in 3 days. With me is Dr. Malcolm Bryson, and we're getting into the thick of it now. The dark nests, the ground hives, the places the whispered line return to when the mimicry peels off. Malcolm, you mentioned nesting zones. What are they, and how many are we talking about?
Nesting zones are anchor sites, biological hubs. Think of them as psychic greenhouses, areas where the atmosphere, temperature, and magnetic resonance have been adjusted to facilitate gestation, transformation, and communication. They're not randomly placed. They follow geomagnetic fault lines, mineral deposits, and proximity to major historical trauma sites, war zones, sacrificial grounds, even disaster areas. Trauma is a conductor. They feed on it. We estimate at least 200 primary zones globally. Of those, 53 are now fully active.
What does fully active mean?
It means the barriers are down. The old masking rituals, the cloaks of human history, they've shed them. The air tastes different. Electrical interference increases. Local animals vanish or go silent. Insect swarms behave erratically. And if you stay long enough, you'll dream in shapes you can't explain.
So these places are occupied.
Occupied, yes, but more than that, reclaimed. These are their home sites, or what they call echo wombs. It's where they birthed the first generation of hybrids centuries ago. It's where they come to molt, to mate, and to commune.
For listeners wondering if they're near one, what are the warning signs?
There are 5 primary indicators. 1. Metallic fog. A low-hanging mist, especially at dawn or dusk, that doesn't move with the wind and tastes faintly of copper. It's laced with microscopic pheromone signals, tracking mechanisms. 2. Distortion of time perception. You'll lose track of minutes, sometimes hours. Watches fail. Shadows move inconsistently, and some have reported hearing their own voices whispered from behind them, repeating sentences they never said. 3. Spontaneous equipment failure. Not just phones, but batteries, flashlights, even analog watches. Anything that runs on a circuit begins to act erratically or overheat. 4. Geometric growths. Crystalline structures rising from soil, walls, or even bones. They start small, like frost, then expand. They're memory anchors, nodes that store and transmit psychic blueprints of the reptilian hive's intent. 5. Silence. No birds, no insects, no distant traffic, just the hum. It's always there. Subaudible, but it drills into your spine like a tuning fork you can't stop.
And if someone finds themselves in or near one of these zones,
They must leave. Immediately. No heroics, no curiosity. Don't take samples, don't film it. The air is coded. Even one breath can install a latency pattern in your nervous system. That's how they seed you. You become a node. Not infected, but imprinted. And then you start drawing others toward them without knowing it.
is there a map of these zones?
There was. Pre-infiltration, I had it encoded and hidden in 3 different locations. One was a ham radio broadcast that loops on shortwave channel 741.3. The loop sounds like white noise. But if you isolate the modulations, they map the zone grid. The second copy is burned into a cave wall in the Jemez Mountains in New Mexico. I used radiant etching. It looks like ancient petroglyphs, but trace it under black light and it glows. The third, I can't speak of. Too risky. But if the first 2 fail, someone listening will find it.
Can these nests be destroyed?
They can be disrupted. Not destroyed. Not by conventional means. Bombs don't work the way we want them to. The nests fold dimensional overlap. The core of a zone may be anchored in a space that doesn't fully exist in ours. But sound, especially collective sound, has effect. Drumming, chant, mass resonance events. Think back to why indigenous ceremonies were always silenced by colonizers. They were a threat, a literal vibrational disruption to reptilian footholds. Also, sacred ash, burned bone and salt, mixed and spread along natural lines in the earth. It breaks coherence.
So there's a way to fight, a way to push back.
There is. But it requires remembering who we were before we were taught to laugh at these things, before we called it superstition. There was a time when we knew. We knew how to make the ground sing. We knew how to banish shadows with a name. We still can. But we have to believe in more than bullets and flags.
I don't know about you folks out there, but my hands are shaking, and I'm more awake than I've been in months. Coming up next, Segment 6, Doctor. Bryson walks us through how human resistance cells are forming and what they're doing right. This is Night Signals. Don't follow the lights in the sky. Follow the ones still flickering in your soul. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Night Signals. This is Cliff Reynolds, and yes, I'm still here. You're still there. That means something. That means they haven't taken everything. Not yet. We've been speaking with Dr. Malcolm Bryson, a man who's become, whether he asked for it or not, a kind of survival architect for the human spirit. Tonight's topic, resistance. Not fantasy rebellion, not movie plots with last-minute heroics and alien ships blowing up in the sky. I'm talking about real resistance, the quiet kind, the intelligent kind, the kind that survives long enough to matter. Doctor, tell us, how is humanity pushing back?
The first wave of resistance began long before the infiltration apex. Fringe researchers, isolated monastics, indigenous tribes guarding ancient harmonics. Most of them were laughed at, forgotten, or exterminated. But not all. What's emerging now is something new, a convergence of the old and the forbidden. The resistance isn't one group. It's a patchwork. But it's growing.
Who's leading it?
No one, and that's its strength. There's no central command to decapitate, no headquarters to target. Just clusters, cells, acting with intuition, memory, and sacred geometry. I've identified 4 main factions, each with a unique function. First, the signal weavers. These are radio operators, sound engineers, old-school analog freaks who've figured out how to transmit destabilizing harmonic patterns using repurposed FM stations and weather towers. They call it tuning the spine. Some nests have collapsed entirely under their sonic assault. Second, the stone mothers. Mostly women, mostly hidden. They work in ancient places, caves, wells, underground temples. They map and reactivate geoglyphic energy points. What we call ley lines, they call the bones of the earth. Wherever they restore the grid, reptilian interference weakens. Third, the mirrorless. They're off-grid completely. No reflections, no digital trace. They're ghost scouts. They move through infected cities, identify mimic clusters, and leave coded marks for others. They carry no names, only resonance tones encoded in bone flutes. If you find a carved flute under your pillow, follow its pitch. It's not random. Fourth, the archive walkers. These are scholars, monks, language decoders. Their mission is to reconstruct suppressed knowledge from the Vedas, the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Maori stone chants, and pre-Inca glyphs. They believe language itself was hacked by the Reptilians to prevent resonance. By restoring the primal phonemes, they're rebuilding humanity's original spellcraft.
That sounds like magic.
Only because we forgot what science once was, before the split, before they made us choose between logic and meaning. The most dangerous thing you can do to a reptilian operative is speak a forgotten truth aloud. If it carries the correct harmonic, their field will ripple, and sometimes rupture.
Are there any places where these factions are gathering? Any locations where listeners might join up or help?
Yes. Carefully, the ruins of Göbekli Tepe, active node. There's a camp hidden beneath the eastern rise. The stones sing at certain moon angles. They're using that to amplify signal rituals. The Appalachian caves near Tellico Plains. Small group of signal weavers. They're working with crystal lattice transmitters, built into abandoned mine shafts. And in Iceland, northwest of Thingvellir, the archive walkers have reopened a basalt chamber once used to store sound scrolls. They believe that human memory isn't just biological, it's vibrational, and can be re-etched into the stone record of the planet.
So, it's happening, quietly, below the noise.
Yes, and it's working. Nests have gone dark. Host shells have collapsed. There are reports of throned ones pulling back into deeper zones. We've even seen footage, unconfirmed but promising, of hybrids fleeing. Not all of them want this. Some are awakening to human emotion. There's one case, a hybrid child in Yunnan, who started to sing, not mimicry, original song. Her resonance disrupted an entire infiltration sector for 3 days.
That gives me chills.
It should, because it means we've begun to turn, not militarily, not politically, but harmonically. The Earth remembers what we were, and so do we, buried under the layers of edits and fear.
All right, folks, I hope your bunker radios are holding. I hope your candles are still burning, because this war, it's not with teeth, it's with tone, with truth, with pattern. Coming up next in segment 7, the strange phenomenon of reptilian defectors. Are they real? Can we trust them? And what do they know that we don't? This is Night Signals. Don't tune out now. Not when the signal's just starting to sing. Welcome back to Night Signals. Cliff Reynolds here, still transmitting through tangled copper and half-willing ghosts of forgotten satellites. I've got one hand on the dials and one eye on the emergency lock panel, because let's be honest, some nights even I'm not sure what's on the other side of that steel door. Tonight, we've crossed the threshold. We're talking to Dr. Malcolm Bryson about the invasion that wasn't announced but was always coming. The Reptilian Dominion, 5 months in and far older than any of us dared believe. But now we pivot. Now we ask the question no one wants to say aloud. Can they turn? Can a reptilian defect? Malcolm, are there really traitors among them?
Yes, but they're not what you'd expect. These are not heroes. They're not allies. They're anomalies. Defectors exist because something is going wrong, not because something is going right.
Define wrong? What's causing them to break ranks?
Incompatibility. Some hybrids, especially second and third generation, are showing signs of cognitive dissonance. They inherit the reptilian structure, but they're being born or grown into a world soaked in human emotional fields. Love, guilt, article music. These things aren't just aesthetics. They carry harmonic fingerprints. Enough exposure, especially during early development, and the resonance shifts. The signal breaks down. They begin to question the hive.
Are they dangerous?
Some, yes. Imagine having 2 sets of instincts in your skull. One ancient and cold, legacy-coded to dominate, infiltrate, and mimic. The other warm, confused, uncertain, and uniquely human. Some hybrids self-terminate, some vanish. Others, a rare few, try to warn us.
I've heard rumors, encrypted video leaks, a voice speaking backward that, when reversed, says, "I remember my mother's heartbeat." Are these real?
That clip originated from the Norway 6 archive. It was a juvenile hybrid, female, half-scaled, still developing vocal modulation. They caught her broadcasting that phrase using nothing but vibrations in her chest cavity, no larynx. The sound traveled through the vents of a decommissioned NATO facility for 6 straight hours. Every guard in the place fell asleep crying. Not fear, grief, collective grief.
What did she want?
To be heard, that's all. Some of them don't want this war. Some of them want to be human, but they don't know how. The resonance in them is misaligned. They ache, and that ache, if refined, can become a kind of empathy.
So they're not enemies, but not friends either.
Precisely. Think of them as bleeding mirrors. They reflect what's broken, in us and in them. There are even reports now of hybrids creating echo zones, quiet pockets carved out of infected cities where no signal reaches. Inside, music plays. Children speak in forgotten dialects. The air feels human again.
How do we know we can trust one?
You don't. That's the point. You feel. You listen. A true defector cannot lie in song. That's their flaw, or their gift. If one sings and the tone carries heat, carries asymmetry, carries pain, they are no longer echoing the hive. But test them. Always. Ask them what death feels like. Ask them what silence means. A host will give you words. A defector will give you weight.
Have you spoken to one?
Once. 8 years ago, in a forest clearing north of Riga, I was leaving an old monastery carrying resonance records carved into amber discs. She stepped out of the trees, small, gray-green skin, no hair, no pretense. She looked at me and said, "Your kind sings wrong, but true." Then she wept, soundlessly. I asked her name. She said nothing, but reached into the soil and drew a spiral. Then she vanished.
What did the spiral mean?
Memory, descent, return. The spiral is their sacred form, but when drawn backward it means defiance. That's how they signal each other.
So there's hope. Not salvation, not victory, but hope.
Yes. And not just in resistance. In redemption. Some of their own are beginning to feel shame. And that emotion, so raw, so utterly human, might be the wedge that breaks the hive mind forever.
Next up, segment 8. What happens if they win? Dr. Bryson walks us through the scenario no one wants to imagine. Full assimilation, total human silence, a world ruled by something cold, ancient, and efficient. Don't go dark yet. This is Night Signals, and we still have breath. This is Night Signals. I'm Cliff Reynolds, and if you followed us this deep into the night, you know the stakes. You've felt the shift. Maybe you've seen the eyes that don't blink. Maybe you've noticed how some people don't cast shadows quite right anymore. We've been talking to Dr. Malcolm Bryson, and in this segment, we're going to stare straight into the abyss. No poetic language, no sugarcoating, just the raw truth. What happens if they win? Malcolm, tell us, what does a reptilian-controlled Earth look like?
It doesn't look like invasion. It looks like order. That's the first thing you have to understand. They don't want chaos. They don't want fire in the streets or mass executions. That was never the goal. Their ideal outcome is far colder. A quiet assimilation, seamless, total, irreversible. If they win, you'll wake up one morning and realize the stars have been rearranged. Not physically, perceptually. You'll look at the sky and not recognize a single constellation. And that won't bother you. That's the point. You'll forget your first kiss, your first heartbreak, your first word, not all at once, but in layers, like sediment being gently scraped away until only the structure remains. A structure they can rebuild.
So it's not extinction, it's erasure.
Exactly. Humanity won't die. It will flatten. We'll become a harmonic species, synced to a broadcast we don't perceive but obey without question. You'll still go to work, still pay taxes, still love your children, but none of it will be yours. All emotion, all spontaneity, all contradiction. Smoothed out, neutralized. The Reptilians don't hate us. That's the danger. Hatred would be too human. They see us as raw material, unfinished code. They want to refine us, to sculpt us into vessels they can use, not because they need us, but because they can.
What happens to resistance?
It ends. Not violently, not with fire or war. It dissolves. The archive walkers forget the languages. The signal weavers lose pitch control. The stone mothers sleep and don't wake up. And the mirrorless? They vanish, not killed, just never seen again. As if their non-existence is more convenient for the pattern.
What about religion, culture, art?
Repurposed. Faith becomes obedience. Art becomes pattern replication. Music loses dissonance. Everything shifts to a 5-tone scale that aligns with the hive frequencies. You'll notice it first in the background. Supermarket music will start to feel too perfect. Advertisements will carry phrases that sound biblical but aren't. And architecture, especially, will change. Corners will round, angles will smooth. Homes will feel quieter, heavier, but no one will speak of it. You'll see the same symbol repeated everywhere, in logos, in traffic signs, in schoolwork. A spiral with no center.
Will we know what's happened?
Only for a little while. The final phase is called the Concord Sleep. A resonance field will sweep the planet, triggered by the synchronized activation of 12 subterranean pylons, one beneath each major tectonic plate. When it pulses, every human brain will register a dream. One unified dream. It will feel like returning home. People will fall to their knees weeping, not from fear, from longing, because they'll believe they've found peace. And when they wake, they'll never question again.
Has this happened before?
Yes, on other worlds. The Reptilians are not unique. They are part of a larger biological phenomenon, what we call civilizations. They call host structures. We build. They adapt, then overwrite. There's evidence in the fossil record, sudden shifts in global behavior, unexplained disappearances of instinct, abrupt uniformity in tool design across continents. We were edited before, but it didn't hold. We slipped the leash. The human anomaly reasserted itself. This time, they want it to be permanent.
Is there a final moment, a last chance to stop it?
There is. Right before the conquered sleep begins, the sky will shimmer. For a brief moment, seconds maybe, you'll see the real Earth underneath. The resonance shell will flicker, and the stars will align as they once were. That's your window. During that moment, if enough of us sing, if enough of us speak a name older than language itself, the field will crack. The pylons will collapse, and they will fall with us. It's not survival. It's sacrifice, but it would be ours.
That's a heavy truth, Malcolm.
It's the only one left.
Next up, segment 9. We're opening the phone lines. Yes, they still exist. And hearing from you. Survivors, believers, the silent and the scattered. Call in. Tell us what you're seeing, what you're dreaming, and what you're still holding on to. This is Night Signals. When the light disappears, remember your own frequency. This is Night Signals, still broadcasting, still breathing, still human. We're in our 9th segment tonight, and if you've been with us this whole time, you already know we're far beyond the threshold. Tonight's guest, Dr. Malcolm Bryson, has pulled back the veil on the reptilian incursion, the infiltration, the resistance, the possible endgame. But now, we open the lines. Not every signal is meant to be decoded. Not every voice needs permission to speak. If you're out there, if you've seen something, felt something, dreamed something that doesn't belong to you, this is your moment. We've got open shortwave relay, live line patch through, and encrypted ham bounce. Let's hear from the real world. First call's coming in from outside Anchorage. Signals faint but intact. Caller, go ahead. You're on Night Signals.
Cliff. My name's Jonah. I don't know if I'm even me anymore. I was in a safe house west of Denali when the sky turned copper. It didn't flash. It dripped, like the stars were bleeding. Since then, I keep seeing reflections of myself that don't match. The other night, I looked into my wife's eyes and saw my own face looking back at me, but smiling when I wasn't. I haven't slept in 4 days. I found a tone generator in an old logging shed. I ran 417 hertz through it, and the reflection stopped mimicking. It froze. I think I bought myself time.
Jonah, you stay away from mirrors. Shatter anything that casts you back wrong. And whatever you do, never let it finish your sentences. That's how it learns your cadence. stay with the tone generator. If it hums unevenly, move again. Second caller, Northern Arizona. Looks like Flagstaff Relay. You're live.
My name is Mira. I was born in a research colony, one of the old hybrid containment zones. My mother said the stars sang the night I was born, not with light, with pressure. 3 weeks ago, I started changing. My skin gets cold when I'm scared, and I can hear underground machines that no one else hears. I don't want to be one of them, I swear. But when I sleep, I dream in numbers, the same number, over and over, 741. Am I becoming them?
Mira, listen to me. You're not becoming them. You're awakening within the field. The number 741 is not their code. It's your resistance. It's the frequency that defies their neural loop. You're not a defector. You're an echo spike. You have the power to destabilize their local node just by remaining unsynced. Do not conform. Do not calibrate. Find salt water. Sleep with quartz. And if you feel your mind splitting, sing. Even if it doesn't make sense, especially then.
You're stronger than you know, Mira. Third caller, line coming in from somewhere deep in the Midwest, bouncing off an abandoned NOAA station. Caller, you're live on Night Signals.
Name's Reverend Hill. I used to preach the gospel in a little steel-paneled church off Route 9. We kept going even after the lights went out. Then one Sunday, every member of my congregation stood at the same time in perfect silence and turned to face the back wall. I didn't preach that day. I ran. Since then, I've been writing symbols into the dust of every abandoned church I find. Spirals, crossed circles. A shape I saw once in a vision, like a wheel, but the center kept shifting. I don't know if it helps, but I keep writing.
You're creating disruptions in their field, Reverend. Every symbol, every line breaks their pattern just enough to delay the Concord's sleep. Keep carving, keep wandering. You're not lost. You're guiding others through the dark. Let's take one more. Text relay, not a call. Looks like someone patched a shortwave burst into our encrypted channel. I'll read it as is. Cliff, they took my brother last week. He came back 3 days later, smiling too wide. My dog won't go near him. He hums in his sleep, low, mechanical like a diesel engine. Today he told me I never had a brother, but I remember. Please tell me I'm not crazy. You're not crazy. You're awake. And if they're trying to overwrite your memory, that means your signal hasn't been erased yet. Guard it like fire. Burn it into pages. Tape it to walls. Whisper it to strangers. Remember who you are. We're going to keep the lines open through the night. But next segment, we bring Dr. Bryson back on. He's going to share the single most important thing we can still do, the last act of resistance that could collapse the reptilian network from the inside. This is Night Signals, and your voice is the one thing they can't fake. This is Night Signals. Cliff Reynolds with you till the end, or until the signal folds under the weight of everything we're not supposed to say. It's been a long night. We've heard from survivors, from defectors, from voices on the edge of the void. We've mapped the nests, named the frequencies, remembered what we were never supposed to remember. And now we arrive at the final chapter, the last act. Dr. Malcolm Bryson is still with us, still clear, still defiant. Doctor, you've talked about resistance, resonance, pattern memory, but now we ask the most difficult question of all. Is there one final thing we can do? Something that still matters even now?
Yes, there is. It won't look like revolution. There won't be flags or armies. This last act, it's personal. It's quiet. But it's global. And if done correctly, it will trigger what the reptilian hive fears most: resonant disobedience.
Explain.
The reptilian signal isn't just broadcast. It's reflected. It uses us, our neural patterns, our rituals, our architecture, even our language, as mirrors. They don't conquer us with weapons. They conquer us with repetition, routine, agreement. If we break the mirror even briefly, they're signal fractures. What I'm about to tell you is dangerous, not because it causes pain, but because it awakens memory, and they monitor for that. At precisely 3:33 a.m. local time, wherever you are, stand outside, barefoot, if possible, grounded. Look at the sky and speak your own name aloud. Not your legal name, not what's on your ID, your real name. The name you used when you first learned how to imagine. The name only your oldest memory knows. Speak it. Whisper it. Sing it if you have to. Then, and this part is vital, hum. Not a song, not a tune, just a tone. One long, unbroken tone that comes from the chest, not the throat. If enough of us do this, not in sync, but in sincerity, the signal will bend. Not break, but bend. And in that moment, something else may hear us. Something older. Something buried beneath the edits. A deeper architecture.
You're saying this isn't just about fighting back, it's about waking up.
Yes. The Reptilians didn't just suppress us, they redirected us. They tuned us to their harmony. But beneath that layer is our original tone. The planet remembers. The stars remember. And so do we. There's a reason they flooded the world with white noise, with screens, with algorithms. They're terrified of one thing, spontaneous human resonance. That's why they silence choirs. That's why they flatten language. That's why they burn every old drum and rewrite every lullaby.
So this isn't magic, it's restoration.
Exactly. You're not casting a spell, you're breaking one. Every person who remembers their true tone sends out a ripple. And those ripples overlap. They vibrate through stone, through water, through dream space. Enough of them, and the hive net begins to desync. The throned ones rely on coherency. If we make the world incoherent, we deny them their anchor.
But people will be afraid of being heard, of being seen.
That's how you'll know it's working. If your breath shortens, if your skin tingles, if the air around you goes still, it means they feel you. It means they're listening. That fear, that pressure in the lungs, don't suppress it. Sing through it. Because what you're doing is real, and they know it.
Can this end them?
It can end their hold. That's all we need. We don't need to destroy them. We need to unhook from them. If we remember who we are, fully, deeply, dangerously, they'll retreat. Not because we are violent, but because we are incompatible.
I want every listener to hear that again. We don't need to destroy them. We just need to become incompatible. We'll close tonight's broadcast with a tone, a single tone, recorded deep beneath a collapsed monastery in southern Tibet. It's not music. It's not a message. It's a reminder. Play it, repeat it, layer your own voice on top of it. And when 3:33 arrives, wherever you are, step outside, speak your true name, hum your tone, let the sky hear what they tried to silence. This is Night Signals. Cliff Reynolds signing off for now. But you keep singing.